Data protection for the U.S. federal government. Data is at the foundation of decision-making and mission success throughout government. Across the United States, sound decisions on national security, natural disasters, space discovery, healthcare, agriculture, and more are made when data is readily available. From backup to data protection to data management, Veeam Government Solutions makes the right information accessible to government anytime, anywhere, with a single platform for cloud, virtual, SaaS, Kubernetes, and physical environments. Veeam Government Solutions, a new independent subsidiary of U.S.-owned Veeam Software, is focused on solving the U.S. federal government's biggest data protection challenges. Our solutions extend beyond core backup and recovery with monitoring and analytics, disaster recovery, data portability, and data mobility across cloud and data centers, ransomware protection, and data reuse capabilities. VGS delivers a single platform for modern data protection and enables defense and federal agencies across government to maintain operational uptime through availability of mission-critical data at a tactical and strategic level in support of critical infrastructure and national security. Government agencies have unique needs. VGS provides the solution agencies trust to protect, manage, and safeguard data, workloads, and mission-critical applications no matter where they reside. With over 1,200 government customers, VGS is flexible, storage agnostic, and easily scalable, integrating into any current government IT environment seamlessly and without fear of lock-in. VGS provides highly secure, mission-critical data protection to keep governments operational now and into the future.
Wow, I love that intro video. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's LinkedIn live chat. We have today Veeam Government Solutions executives. My name is Jeff Reichert, and I work on Veeam's product strategy team in the office of the CTO. I'm here today with Earl G. Matthews, who's the president of Veeam Government Solutions, and also with Gil Vega, who's the chief information security officer of Veeam and a member of the Veeam Government Solutions board. Earl, Gil, thank you very much for joining us on the LinkedIn Live session today.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Super. So before we kick off, there are just a few housekeeping items for the audience to know about. First, please submit any questions that you have in the LinkedIn Live chat as we go along. We are very excited about the launch of Veeam Government Solutions. And while I have Earl and Gil on today, we want to make sure that we answer your questions. We'll try to get to those in real time as we go along, but I will be joining the chat later on. So if you've got a question that occurs to you after the event closes, please feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat because I'll be looking at it as the day goes on as well. Second, you might have noticed that closed captioning is turned on your screen. If you don't want closed captioning on, if you'd like to turn that off, you can just click the little CC button on the lower right of your screen, and that will get rid of closed captioning for you. Final thing to let you know about, our talk today is showing only in the United States, and we would love to know where our viewers today come from. So please do drop a note in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from today. And in a few minutes, we'll go back and we'll take a look at where everyone comes from that's viewing today. So let's jump in. Earl, Gil, we are here to discuss the recent announcement of Veeam Government Solutions, which is a new subsidiary of Veeam that's focused 100% on our US federal government customers. Earl, let's start with you. You've been on board guiding the Veeam Government Solutions launch for months now, but before that, you had a long career in national service. Could you fill us in a bit on your background?
Thanks, Jeff. Sure. I'm a Philadelphia native, proud native of the city of Brotherly Love, educated in the public schools there and at Villanova University. I'm a lawyer by training. I spent the bulk of my professional life in the defense and national security space. I've served as an Army officer, as a civilian lawyer, and later as an intelligence officer within the Department of Defense. I spent about 9 years at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I've been in the Army for 22 years, and I'm still serving as a reserve officer. I'm proud to say I've served as a veteran of multiple tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Most recently, I held senior roles in the Department of Defense and on the National Security Council staff at the White House. I was the acting general counsel of the Army, and I led the defense team at the National Security Council. I also served as an advisor to the Director of National Intelligence. So that's my background.
Well, that's a very distinguished background. And Earl, thank you for your years of service in the U.S. Army and in the intelligence community. Let's pivot a little bit. Obviously, you've had a long time in national service. What led you to come to Veeam Government Solutions? What brought you to this opportunity?
Well, I've been privileged to serve. Spent most of my career in public service. I joined Veeam to lead the VGS effort. One, because it's a great company with great leadership under our CEO, Bill Largent, and because I think that Veeam offers the best product on the marketplace, and it offered me the opportunity really to continue my public service in the private sector. Ultimately, VGS is in the business of providing solutions that protect the federal government's data. By doing that, we ensure the continuity of the federal government, and we enhance our national security. So for me, it's all about supporting the same government I've served most of my career, just from the private sector.
That makes a ton of sense.
And of course, we have the best solutions out there, as you well know, Jeff.
Absolutely. Thank you, Earl. We're very lucky to have you here. Gil, I've got the same question for you. I know you're also an Army veteran, and thank you for your service. You've had quite a career in cybersecurity leadership in both the private and the public sector. Could you fill us in on that a little bit and tell us what led you to Veeam?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. I was going to date myself. I'm a little older than Earl. I served as an enlisted soldier in the U.S. Army in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, many moons ago, and very proud of that service. When I left the Army, I took a job in government and never really looked back. I spent many years in D.C. at various agencies in different cybersecurity capacities, including CISO at a small DoD targeting organization during the Iraq War, as well as CISO for the Naval Intelligence Group in Suitland, Maryland. Homeland Security stood up in about 2003, and I was privileged to be given an opportunity to be the CISO at ICE when that agency came into existence. I still really look fondly back on my time at DHS. After DHS, I was promoted into the NCS and took the role as CISO for the Department of Energy. Worked a lot with the national laboratories, nuclear weapons complex, renewables, and so forth. I left government in about 2013 and spent about 6 years as a CISO in a highly regulated, systemically important financial services market utility. And about 15 months ago, I had the opportunity to come to Veeam, and I took it. So exciting to be part of a software company. I've never worked in the software industry before, and I took it as an incredibly exciting challenge to change my trajectory from government and financial services to come work for a fantastic company that we have here at Veeam.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So you've actually been all over the map, both of you, in terms of places that you've been and the positions that you've taken, the different roles that you've filled. So thank you very much. We're lucky to have you here. Let's look at another map. Could you go ahead and bring up for us, Mark, the map? Okay, so this is the answers that we have so far of where folks are watching from. You can see it's filled in quite a bit. Thank you for those of you who have responded. If you haven't responded, do drop a note in the chat so we can fill the map in the rest of the way. We're happy to hear where everyone is on with us watching from today. So let's go ahead and continue. Earl, I'd like to pivot back to you. Could you tell us for a minute why Veeam Government Solutions was stood up? Why was the organization created? And how will it be supporting data backup, data protection for our federal customers?
Sure. Well, Jeff, as you well know, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Veeam Software Corporation. We're based here in Washington, D.C., and we are specifically tailored and focused on meeting the unique requirements, needs, and objectives of our federal government customers. We're staffed exclusively by U.S. citizens. Many of us have security clearances. All of us have previous federal government experience, either as civilian employees, military veterans, or as federal contractors. We understand the nuances of federal contracting, federal regulatory requirements, certifications. also how to handle and secure classified information and control unclassified information. Now, Veeam has been selling in the federal space for a decade. We have over 1,200 unique federal customers from across the Department of Defense, the civilian agencies, and the intelligence community. And so, our federal government customers have realized the importance of data as a strategic asset and the criticality of protecting data. And so we want to meet those needs firsthand. We've consolidated many of the people within our company who understand the federal space within the VGS umbrella. And we have a presence here in Washington, D.C. I'm a direct report to the CEO of Veeam. So we're able to meet the needs of our customer firsthand, to engage with our customers here in the seat of government. We're based here. I'm based on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., halfway between the Congress and the White House. We're able to engage with the federal agencies here, with the Department of Defense, and with our federal customers throughout the globe to uniquely understand their requirements, their unique data strategies, and to tailor our responses to meet those unique requirements. That's why we're here, really, to be a focal point for all government support within Veeam.
That's perfect, and it makes a ton of sense. I know, obviously, Gil has federal experience. I've got a lot of federal experience on the vendor side, and what you're pointing out is exactly right. Obviously, you do need a focus, you do need expertise, and Veeam Government Solutions is going to be bringing that to the table. Gil, same question for you. You're a member of the VGS board. What are your focus areas in that role?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Great question. I want to make a quick distinction here because I hold the operational role as an executive at Veeam as the CISO, which is positions responsible for global cybersecurity company of a company that operates in almost 60 countries globally and has about 5,000 employees. So that's my daytime job, obviously, and I focus a lot of effort on that myself along with my team. But Bill Largent, our CEO, asked me to take on an additional collateral role as the member of the board of directors for VGS, and I think it's really important to make this point that my background, my experience, my role at Veeam is meant to be leveraged on the board at VGS so that this company and this entity stays focused on the things that our customers are most concerned about today. Protection against cyber threats, ransomware, sensitive mission data protection, managing the significant risk and compliance burdens that federal agencies face, and frankly, accelerating their hybrid cloud model to gain the efficiencies and cost effectiveness that the U.S. government needs to achieve in a post-COVID world. My role at VGS is pretty simple: to make sure that management stays focused on all of these things. And I think that really resonates with many of the customers that I've spoken with, that the company is so focused on cybersecurity, cyber resiliency, and keeping focused on the dangerous threat environment that they've placed someone like myself with my background on this board to keep it a focus area.
Perfect. That makes a ton of sense. So let's actually expand on that. You are Veeam's Chief Information Security Officer. When we talk about bringing government and industry together, it's something that Earl mentioned before. Basically, he's just continuing his national service in his current role, and you've touched on that too. How do you see there being sort of cross-pollination between what you're doing as the CISO of a major international software company and being on the board at Veeam Government Solutions?
Yeah, just a real quick anecdote, Jeff. My last 6 years in financial services, I used to call it hyper-regulated by the U.S. government. It almost felt like I was working for the federal government again. It was so tight, and it was important because of the place that the organization I was in terms of the overall financial ecosystem. The government had equities that needed protection. So for someone like me who comes from a national security background, I understand that, and I certainly supported those relationships. When I was a Fed, I always wanted to have strategic relationships with my vendors, something a little bit more meaningful than traditional supplier-consumer relationships. I wanted vendors who really understood in great detail sometimes the nature of my mission, what I was being held accountable for, what my agency was being held accountable for, what my secretary was being held accountable for. And in places like DHS and DOE, it was really important for my vendors to understand what my tactical life-saving missions were. Our goal at VGS is to really be that type of partner with U.S. federal agencies. Our leadership here at the company and on the board, as well as, you'll be introduced later to our advisory board members, or we'll go through that. They're very experienced with the mission of the federal government, which really puts us, I think, in a uniquely qualified position to partner strategically with our federal agencies. We're the leader in backup, recovery, data management solutions that deliver what we call modern data protection, and we know that our U.S. government customers need more of this, right? They need expertise, they need partners, they need folks that can walk along with them in their missions as they deliver their services. And more than most, VGS really understands the need to safeguard data in what we all know is an incredibly dangerous cyber threat environment. Partnering with a company like VGS and the leadership that we have and the teams that we've built ensures that you're going to partner with a vendor who understands the challenges that the U.S. government faces, including living into President Biden's recent cybersecurity executive order. Because what you're going to get from VGS is a multi-year focus already on supply chain security, information sharing between government and industry, as well as embracing, the philosophy of zero trust architecture.
Fantastic. I'd like to remind the audience, if you do have questions for any of the topics that we've discussed so far with Earl and with Gil, please do put them in the chat. We're watching the chat. We'll be happy to get to them. And again, if they come to you later on today, I'll be looking at the chat later on and I'll be able to respond to those. Earl, let's stay on the topic of government and industry working together. So let's talk a little bit more, if you don't mind, about the Veeam Government Solutions leadership. Can you share with us some of the other members of the VGS board and of the advisory board? I think we have a slide for that we saw just a minute ago, and I'd love for you to go through it for the folks who are dialed in today.
Sure, and I'll distinguish between the corporate board and the advisory board. On the corporate board, you have our chairman, Nick Ayers. Nick is currently in the private equity space at Ayers Neugebauer, but he is a well-known and trusted confidant of many governmental officials around the country. I first got to know him when he served at the White House. He was the assistant to the president and chief of staff to Vice President Pence. Played an important role in a whole range of national security activities, including the stand-up of the U.S. Space Force. So Nick's very well respected around the national security community, and he's again, he leads our VGS board, and he's also a member of the Veeam Software Corporation board. Of course, Gil, and we know his stellar background in national security and cybersecurity, and myself, and we constitute the VGS corporate board. And then we have an advisory board of seasoned, senior, former governmental senior leaders with significant experience in the national security space. Tom Trask is a retired Air Force lieutenant general. I would say he's an air commando, significant special operations experience. He's a Silver Star recipient from the Gulf War, helicopter pilot. He ran U.S. SOCOM's office here at the Pentagon, where I first got to know him several years ago. So he understands the special operations community and the overall national security community. He's an expert on the requirements of the national security community, and he's a valuable member of our team. Harry Coker, I've known him for several years also. Harry was most recently the executive director of the National Security Agency. That's the number 3 role at NSA, which obviously has significant cybersecurity responsibilities. Harry is a career CIA officer, spent 17 years at CIA, a member of the senior executive or senior intelligence service at CIA, and also has significant experience at the National Reconnaissance Office. Harry is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. He was a career naval officer, spent 20 years in the Navy, went from ensign to commander, spent some time at the NRO while he was at the Navy. So well respected in the national security intelligence community and doing great things in the cyber community. And we're very happy to have him on our board also. And then, of course, Chad Sweet, also a significant national security and intelligence experience. Chad is a co-founder of Chertoff Group. He was chief of staff to Mike Chertoff, and Chertoff was the Secretary of Homeland Security. Chad also started his career off as a member of the National Clandestine Service at CIA, helping to protect our country. Well respected within the cybersecurity community, and the interagency here in D.C. Continues to maintain significant contacts in the IC, or the intelligence community, and elsewhere in government. So we have a really outstanding cast of advisors who help us to better understand and meet the needs of our government clients and customers.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a very deep bench, and I'm excited to see the folks that you've brought on board to be running Veeam Government Solutions. That could scarcely be better. What I'd like to do, this is great. Let's take a quick step out for a second, because I think that we have more states that have reported in from our viewers. So Mark, do you want to put our map up? Yep, I think that we've added New York, Texas, Maryland, and a couple of others since the earlier time that we looked at the map. So thanks to everyone who has logged where you came from and that's chimed in. Do share any questions that you've got. We're winding down toward the bottom of the half hour, so I'd like to circle back. Earl, one more question for you at this point. Let's start with you. Where do you see the opportunity over the next 12 months for Veeam Government Solutions? You're going to be steering the ship. Where are you going to be steering it to?
Well, it's important that we amplify our name and our good work, and also given the threat posed by ransomware to governmental activities, I think we offer the best solution in response to ransomware. Our products are being backup and recovery, and other products ensure the continued access to information, whether in response to any contingency, whether it be a malevolent actor or human error, wherever there's a threat to information flow and to the access to data, we're there to provide a solution to ensure continued access. And so for us, it's important that we engage with our government interlocutors here in DC and around the country, that we understand their requirements, that we understand the data strategies that each of those agencies have implemented. I think our federal government customers are realizing that their organizations must be data-centric, and VGS is purposefully committed to addressing their requirements. And so for us, really, it's engagement, interaction, and being accessible to our clients and really getting our name out there, because I think we have 1,200 government customers, so they know the unique and capable solutions that we offer, and we're all about expanding upon that and amplifying what we can provide. And that's creating our presence and enhancing our brand will allow us to better meet the needs of the government. So that's the top priority for us.
That makes a ton of sense, and that's a big point of the organization. It makes sense. Gil, same question for you. Now that we're closing down near the bottom of the half hour, what are your targets for the next 12 months at Veeam Government Solutions?
We're gonna continue to listen to our federal customers, our government customers who have a lot of additional life and death missions on behalf of this country, and we're going to adjust as we need to. We're going to continue to stay focused on exceeding industry standards and benchmarks, and being agile in the face of these sort of evolving guidance that the government faces from time to time. Through a lot of our information sharing efforts and the teams we've built at Veeam, obviously we're going to stay abreast of the ever-changing challenges that we face in this dangerous cyber threat landscape, and our customers' needs in response to that, and adjust fire as we need to. Jeff, probably better than most, as this ransomware epidemic has just exploded. Veeam's products have been brought to bear as a pretty significant tool to combat those. Our company is going to continue to stay focused there and help our customers who become victimized by these types of attacks, for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? We've got a couple of minutes left. Gil, if you don't mind, let's expand on that last point that you made, because you talked about specifically, everyone's talked about malware, ransomware in the course of the talk. Gil, I know one of the initiatives that you've driven since coming on board at Veeam Corporate and at Veeam Government Solutions, is implementing the NIST cybersecurity framework and driving that more into our product development cycle. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure can. The NIST CSF is near and dear to me. I participated in some of the early opportunities to shape and develop the NIST cybersecurity framework with NIST as through the Department of Commerce when I was in government. NIST really provides us a really good opportunity to address cybersecurity needs across the enterprise in a way that's just understandable, leveraging a shared lexicon. And what I love most about the NIST cybersecurity framework, which I've worked to implement over my last 3 roles, is the ability to go from technical conversations with control owners all the way to the boardroom. And it's especially helpful when it comes to board members and other important stakeholders, investors, understanding what it is you're managing, how you're managing your risks, and how your enterprise controls are addressing those risks. So what we've done is we've adopted the NIST cybersecurity framework at Veeam. We've adopted it at VGS, and we've worked with our product strategy teams to adopt it in terms of how we're developing our products. And we think it's very beneficial for our government customers who really understand the NIST cybersecurity framework.
Perfect. And that's the feedback that I've gotten from our public sector customers, both on the federal side and the state and local side, and a lot of our enterprise and even commercial customers. Exactly what you said, the ability to go through this kind of iterative cycle based on what your actual risks are is really helpful. For those of you that are Veeam customers, we went ahead just for fun and populated this cybersecurity framework slide with some Veeam product specific capabilities. Obviously not the focus of today's call, but it might be interesting for you if you know what Veeam brings to the table. Obviously, we're going to be there on the protect side, we're going to be there on the recover side, but we do a lot more. And some of the capabilities in the different areas going around through the whole areas of the cybersecurity framework are called out here in terms of product features. And gentlemen, I think that's about all that we have time for today. Thank you to the audience for joining us. Again, if you've got questions, go ahead and submit them. I will be monitoring the chat as we go along. If we didn't get to it in the course of the call today, we will get to it, I promise. And Gil, Earl, thank you both for joining Veeam Government Solutions and for joining us here today for the talk. I think it was great, and I'm sure our audience really enjoyed hearing from both of you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks a lot. Okay, take care all.